and welcome. My name is Victoria Bedford and I'm a holistic spiritual therapist and alchemist, helping those that I work with to empower themselves through healing, through understanding, through self-awareness and through self-realization. And how do we do that? Well, I'm hoping that you will gain that knowledge over the videos that I'm doing on my page. I get so nervous about this stuff, but we have to start somewhere. So here I am, pushing myself out there and doing what I love. Helping empower people and hopefully that enabling people to grow. So this video is going to be about how to be your true self. The other word could be authentic, authenticity. How to be more you, because let me be very honest with you, the likelihood of you being who you really are is really slim, because we are conditioned to show up to this world how we think we need to be, whether that is perceived good aspects of what we should show and bad aspects of what we should hide. So for example, growing up, you're taught that you have to do everything that you're told. You're taught to be this good person because it makes mum and dad happy, or mum, or nan and granddad, or whoever's raising you. So you are taught to suppress parts of yourself, such as the assertive side, or the side that is deemed loud, or the side that is not accepted by your peers. So you are being raised in an environment that is not conducive to who you really are. You know, and as children, well, I suppose we have to conform, don't we? You know, we are being led to be kept safe. And the views from years ago were to be a good person, you had to have certain traits. Now, we know that that's not the case now. We know the power of being you. We know the power of finding your voice. We know the power of creativity. We know the power of healing. And one part of healing is learning to be, or learning to uncover who you really are. And you won't know who you really are. You'll just know right now you feel dissatisfied, lost, maybe depressed, maybe anxious, maybe sad. You might not know what you feel, you just feel numb. But I can assure you the likelihood of you being who you really are is quite slim. Because again, you are behaving in ways that are deemed right for society. Now, we can't all go around running amok, can we? We can't all go looting or stealing or doing, you know, things that are classed as bows. We can't be doing that. That is not who our true self is. Who our true self is how do we feel? So being able to face how we feel without being told it's wrong. Because growing up, the likelihood of your feelings always being validated are quite slim, whether that's in school, whether that's at home, whether that's with your friends. There's lots of people around quick to tell us that what we feel is wrong. Oh, you don't really feel that. Oh, don't think like that because that's not what you really think. When actually, the first part of owning who you are is recognizing how do you think and feel. When you start to validate how you think and feel, you are then able to trust what should I do about that. And this is the next part of being your authentic self, being the real you. How do you deal with that? You might have been taught growing up not to say how you feel, or it might have been perceived that that's how you deal with things. You know, you can't really say how you feel. So you've grown up either not being able to tell anyone how you feel, or always telling everyone quite bluntly, well, this is how I feel, and you don't get to tell me otherwise because that is how I feel. That's not really your true self. That's yourself that's based on fears of not being heard. When we are sitting within our true self, we are doing things and behaving in ways and creating a value system that is in correlation with who we want to be. So when I started to learn who my authentic self was, I had to ask myself, who do I want to be? Well, Vicky, I don't want to be somebody who's rude anymore, because I don't know how to say how I feel in the right way. But I do want to be somebody that says how I feel, because I would flip between rudely saying how I felt because I had hid it for so long and I didn't know how to say it, so I'll just blurt it out, and it's done, then it's blurted out. And then I would go into not saying anything because I was scared to be rude. So I would say to myself, okay, I want to learn how to say how I feel without saying in a way that's rude. So one of my first ways of learning to be my true self was when I felt hurt by somebody or I felt a situation had affected me, I would tell that person politely how I felt. Now, I would feel guilty for that. I would feel like I shouldn't have said anything. I would have felt like I'd rocked the boat. But I allowed myself to sit with my uncomfortable feelings of I shouldn't have done that. Because you're going to get those uncomfortable feelings because you are stepping out of a norm for you. You are doing something that's different. When you do something that's different, it feels uncomfortable. But uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's not what you're used to doing. You have coping mechanisms, you see. You're used to pleasing and appeasing people. Or you're used to being too assertive and using your masculine energy where you tell them exactly what you think and feel. And people say, well, you're so abrasive. And you're like, no, I'm just honest. And we dress it up as honesty when, yes, it is honest. There's absolutely ways that we can deliver honesty without being really rude or abrasive. And we've only learnt that because we haven't learnt a way to say how we feel in a more of a nurturing way. So when I would say how I felt, obviously I wouldn't always get the reaction back that I wanted. You know, I'm not going to lie. People don't like people when they say how they feel. You know, people get their backs up, people get angry, or people shut you down. But I had to start training myself to know that what I was feeling was valid, and what the other person was saying was just because they were angry, triggered, that I'd said how I felt. They're not used to that. And as long as I delivered it in a way that was polite but honest, it's not then for me to control how that other person deals with it. And if they get angry, I'll just say, I'm really sorry that you feel that way, and maybe we can talk another time. If they get defensive, you have to hold your ground in the sense of, I hear what you're saying, and I hear that you're saying that it might not be like that, and actually I really appreciate us having this conversation, but it did hurt me, and I'm willing to move forward with you. But what it does is it opens up either a conversation or communication that you can move forward, so people are being able to feel like they're being treated respectfully. Because by being your true self and your authentic self, you are showing up to the world in a way that you want to be treated, in a way that you deserve to be treated, in a way that you haven't been treated before. Because up until living your authentic life, you've been living unconsciously. So the second part of living an authentic life is being yourself. If you're quirky, own it. You know, maybe some of your jokes are quite dry, okay? So for me, who I'm a very quirky person, for me who used to say so many inappropriate things at so many different times, and be like, oh, I can't believe I've just said that. Oh. I've learned who I can have these kind of banters with and who I have to tone it down with. And I've started to learn to, because before I didn't know how to own my quirky self, so I just was quirky and I was out there and I was loud, you know, but most of the time that was to hide the fact that I was shy. And I couldn't understand how I was shy in one breath and quirky in another, because for me, to be quirky meant you was loud. That doesn't mean you can be shy, but I'm both. I'm an introvert, but I'm also, I'm an introvert and I'm shy. It takes me a lot to do these videos and to do the work that I do, but I love it. But I'm also quirky and out there and weird and dry. But I had to learn to read the room, okay? Because I didn't know how to recognise when there was an appropriate time to be a certain way. I would get all awkward because I didn't know how to own my own energy. So I'd get all awkward. I'd go in there and I'd be, as you can tell probably on this video, you know, sometimes I can appear really, and I would be like that. And I sometimes would say things without thinking. But I didn't realise that until I started to own my unique, authentic self, that for one, I'm not going to apologise for who I am. And nobody should ever have to apologise for who they are. For two, sometimes we are going to say things that might be a little bit inappropriate, and sometimes we're not going to say the right things. Sometimes we're going to say the wrong things. We are human. And actually, for one, allowing ourselves compassion, love and understanding for the fact that, oops, we've said something that might, you know, oh, we didn't really think about, you know, own it and apologise. But also recognising how to be mindful. So now when I go into social situations that I feel like I'm going to be really nervous in, I centre myself. I take some breaths in through my nose and I hold them in my belly. And I take some breaths in and I slow my breathing down and I prepare myself. I mean, I'm a people person, but I'm an awkward people person. So I do have to prepare myself quite often. And that also goes for meetings and things like that. Being your authentic self means you can own yourself even in front of authority figures, even in front of people you feel challenged by. So that's the next one I want to go on to. Quite often, due to many different reasons, when it comes to teachers, police, government, anyone, we will shut down and we will do what we call groupthink. And we will go into the thinking patterns of other people that go against our own because we're scared to challenge somebody. And not everyone has it within them naturally to have that part of them that can challenge another. But it's really important that we do develop that part of ourselves within our authentic self. Because actually you have to challenge who you are. You know, how are you trying to fit into society that doesn't fit you? How are you doing that? Are you trying to live a life that is so great society-wise? You look like the perfect person in the street, but actually you feel so unhappy? Or like me, you have a child with a disability. My daughter is ADHD and on the pathway for a diagnosis of autism, even though I know 100% she's autistic. And she's not getting her needs met at school. And once upon a time, I would slip into this groupthink behaviour with the teachers and always side with them, which meant I was coming away feeling unheard. I was coming away feeling belittled, feeling as if my voice didn't matter, not even having a voice. And I really had to challenge part of myself that was scared of authority, was scared to have this thought pattern that was mine. And slowly over time, I've had to learn to challenge the behaviour and the thoughts and feelings of another, even if they are a teacher. Because I need to tell you this, teachers are human, police are human, government are human, and they don't always have enough self-awareness to know what their behaviours are doing. I see it. Coming from a very self-aware place, I see it. And I'm doing my daughter an injustice by not speaking up. So I've had to slowly learn to be uncomfortable and find a new comfortable place with speaking up. Now, all of these things you're not going to do overnight, but how I started this journey of becoming authentic, every day I chose to try and show up as much in alignment with who I wanted to be, okay? So once upon a time I would suffer road rage. That's not really me, that's me not being able to deal with my emotions. And back in a previous video on this channel, I do speak about how to manage your emotions, emotional regulation, and how to understand them. But I knew that I didn't want to be that person. That wasn't who I wanted to be. God, it left me feeling angry and agitated. So each day I tried to feel my emotions when somebody cut me up, when somebody beeped at me, when someone didn't think I was going fast enough. And I learned to deal with things in a different way. And the more you start to show up each day, living a life that feels more a life you want to live. So here's a little, not a lesson, but here's a little thing that you can do. I can't even think of the word, maybe because I'm nervous, but here is a little exercise that you can do. Think about values you want to create. Not I want to be a good person, because being a good person in society is somebody that doesn't challenge authority. Well, we already know. Sometimes we need to. Being a good person is somebody that's compliant. Well, we already know being compliant makes us unhappy, because we're doing everything for everyone else. So actually, I don't want to be compliant. If my school says I have to go in, but the situation isn't that big at school and I've got lots going on at home with my work, I'm sorry, I can't be compliant to that. I will come in at a later date, I will have a meeting with you. There's some things we have to learn to find our voice on. If there's demands that you work overtime but it can't happen because things going on at home and you're stressing yourself, you can't be compliant. And you have to recognise, actually, am I giving more of myself in a place that I don't necessarily enjoy? We spend so much time at our work. If you don't enjoy your work, for one, that's not quite, going to bring you joy and satisfaction. But for two, if you're meeting all these requirements and needs and demands of another that are above and beyond your job role, you're really going to feel dissatisfied. Some of the things when I started to step into my authentic self, I had to challenge does my work make me happy? At the time, no, it didn't. I was a hairdresser for many, many years. Then I went to uni and I was going to be a police officer. But and I've been doing readings since I was 18. But I didn't ever think readings and coaching and spiritual teaching was ever going to be my work. But the universe has led me along a path of all of that. So I had to choose whether I was going to dedicate myself to that. Working out if your job is aligned with you. If you are not happy in your job, it is not aligned with you. What needs to change? Recognizing that. What needs to change? Maybe you need to change your job. Step out of the comfortable place you're in within your life, because change and being your authentic self and happiness does not come from comfortable places. And now, when it feels uncomfortable, I know I'm challenging myself and it hurts and it's hard and I think, why? Just like these YouTubes, but I know there's a greater meaning to it. And as much as I get nervous with these YouTubes, I do secretly really like them because I want to help empower people. Being your authentic self. So what's your values? I want to be more assertive. Okay, that's a value. How am I going to do that? I want to be more assertive. I want to be more time conscious. Okay, maybe you spend a lot of time scrolling. Maybe you spend a lot of time on other people that you don't get back. How do you want to spend your time? Think about these things because your time is so precious. Think about these things. How do I want to be around people? Do I want to just meet people and have shallow relationships? Maybe at the moment your relationships lack a little depth because you just listen to gossip and you involve yourself in things and support people, but you go away feeling drained. Okay, how do I want my friendships to look? You can't overhaul this all overnight. I used to spend lots and lots of time scrolling. I used to be around lots and lots of people that were in, unfortunately, negative mindsets, unhappy, and there's nothing, we all go through negative mindsets, but if you continue to surround yourself with people who don't want to grow, who don't want to face the way they think or feel, then you're going to stay in that space, okay, because you're going to be pulled into that space, the energy is going to pull into that space. And it's not about leaving people behind. My friends are not spiritual, they struggle lots and lots of life, but I'm not their counsellor. I'm just their friend. And sometimes I have to recognise I can't spend time with them when they're, yes, I'll support them and I'll be there for them, but I can't give all of myself to them and their journey if they're not going to help themselves. And you have to recognize this, because otherwise you just live in self-sacrifice your whole life. And how an authentic life looks, okay, so how does my authentic life look? I say no more. I am my quirky self and I am not sorry for it. I occasionally swear, more than occasionally, and I own it. It's a part of my personality. But I know where and when I can. Sometimes I don't. I step out of my comfort zone and I do things that I know are going to bring me happiness or know are going to bring me purpose and peace, but they are hard initially. I self-reflect. Now, look, it might seem overwhelming, and I really don't want to overwhelm you because the process isn't actually as overwhelming as that. It's really quite simple. And I would say get yourself a journal, get yourself a book, and write down first of all, what's your values? What values do you want to create to being your authentic self, to being you? You are put here as a beautiful, special human being. There is no one like you, my friend. There is no one with your personality, with your hair type, with your skin, with your freckles or your spots or your skin colour or your height or your little belly or there's nobody with the mind that you have, with the things that you have been through. There isn't anybody, because we're all unique. And when we step into our unique selves, people learn to respect us more. People love to be around us more, because people get to see who we are, including the vulnerable sides, okay? Saying how you feel more. And again, this isn't comfortable when we start to do these things. If you've watched any of my previous videos, I have come from childhood trauma, different forms of addiction, behaviours that were very unhealthy, mental health disorders, mental health diagnoses, list as long as my arm, not going to lie, and on medication my whole life. And now I'm not on medication. I am here helping empower people change and grow in the way that I have. My life is completely changed. It's not even done a 360, it's done a million and a billion. It's changed so much. And only I did that work. And you can too. Because if I did it, you can. And I'm not here to make anybody feel that it's wrong to be on antidepressants or medication. If you need your medication, you need it. But I knew I was ready to come off it. I knew that I'd been on it longer than needed. And actually what my body needed was healing. I can't heal any of you. I can't tell you that you need to get off medication, you need to do this. But what I can say is, the likelihood if you're watching this, you are unhappy, dissatisfied, have maybe a mental health diagnosis, and feel as if your life is lacking meaning. But you are the meaning. You are the meaning to life. And if you allow yourself to want to learn who you are now, and who you want to be, and how you want to step into your fucking power, you will have a life greater than you ever expected. And I want to say to you, my life isn't without issues. My life isn't without problems. My life isn't without sometimes me still getting triggered. Sometimes me still having emotional responses. This healing to life doesn't mean you suddenly become so peaceful nothing matters, or you become so numb and everything is great. It means you can build a sense of self amongst the chaos called life. And you can find purpose for who you are. Now, I'm really hoping that you enjoyed this YouTube video. So there is many other YouTube videos on emotional regulation, on healing. There's even meditations that I am placing up and that are already up. I do have a Facebook page called The Spiritual Hub, where you can follow me for lives, for readings. I also do inner child healing, spiritual coaching, and I am on TikTok. Oh, TikTok, that was a whole journey that I have really had to learn to come out of my comfort stage, because showing your quirky self on those kind of platforms is sometimes a little scary. and I'm still learning. But please do subscribe, do follow me, and I hope to see you in future videos. Goodbye.